Hi, I'm Lane. This is not an update. I tried filming an update a couple of times, but I don't like doing them. I don't like talking about myself, and I don't want to really bring my personal issues to the internet. So I think I'm going to stray away from that. So this video, I'm going to talk about something that's been bothering me this summer. I mean, it bothers me all the time, but identities. Specifically the transgender identity. I do not, and this is all from my own personal point of view here, I do not identify as transgender. I mean, yes, I'm technically considered transgender because the gender that I was assigned at birth does not match my actual gender. But that does not mean that I identify as being transgender. I identify as a guy. You know, I just want to be the average guy. I don't like being called a trans guy. I don't like any of that. And what I have encountered is that typically this is more of a problem with identities and respecting those identities in the LGBT community, more so than, you know, straight communities. Usually with typically straight people that I tell them I'm a guy, and they're cool with that. And if they find out that I'm transgender, then they're just, you know, maybe they'll ask me about it, and then I'll tell them, you know, yes, I'm a guy, I have a feminine body. And they accept that. And they don't question it, they just call me a guy, and everything's cool. But in the LGBT community, it gets a lot more complicated, and it's a completely different dialogue when it comes out to being trans. I went to a summit this summer, and there was an introduction slip that you signed with your name, your age, your sexual orientation, and your gender identity. And for gender identity, they had male, female, F to M, M to F, transgender, transsexual, intersex, and androgynous. And, you know, I totally respect the fact that they're trying to be inclusive, but when it's delineated like that, I feel more oppressed. I mean, I'm a guy. Like, I don't want to check off a different box because I was born with a different body. I don't identify as transgender. I don't want to check off F to M. I don't want to check off any of those except guy, because that's how I feel. And, you know, that's what I did, and obviously didn't have a problem with it, but it's just the fact that it was out there. I don't like when people make being transgenderism out to be a third gender, and typically there's this misconception that bisexuals like men and women, and pansexuals like men, women, and transgender people. That offends me a lot, because I'm a guy, and if someone likes guys, then I might date them, you know what I mean? You don't have to be pansexual to date a trans person, because it's not a third gender. Like, I'm not in my own category just because of my body. You know, pansexualism, it's about pansexualism. Pansexuality is just about usually disregarding the gender. It's just not that important. Bisexuality typically means that it's more important to you. And, you know, I've dated, you know, straight girls. I've dated bisexual girls. I've dated gay guys, like, people who are attracted to guys. Actually, I don't think that anyone that I've dated identifies as pansexual, not to my knowledge at least, but I could date someone who's pansexual. It's just not, I'm not exclusively to those people. Those are not the only people who are attracted to trans people. Because, you know, a lot of trans girls, a lot of trans guys, they don't consider themselves that way. They're just girls or guys. It's not this huge big difference. And I don't like when it's made out to be that. So if you're an ally of trans people, you know, maybe you can watch this video and try to understand that more, just to be more respectful and more aware of the fact that we might not identify the way that you think that we do. And it's not good to assume things like that, because, you know, a lot of us have to deal with a lot of shit like that. And, you know, like, I don't make a big deal about it when I hear it, but after a while it just gets to me, and if I keep hearing the same things over and over again, it just starts to drive me crazy. Basically, I was in this workshop one time, and it was LGBT 101, and it ended up being, you know, transgender 101, because that's what most people were not as knowledgeable about. That's just what they were asking those questions about, and that's cool, you know, they just want to know. But it got to be that the group of students that were in there, not the adults, but the students, they came to the conclusion that the definition for transgender is someone who changes their gender. And I have a lot of problems with that, because I don't consider myself ever changing my gender. Yes, I hope to take hormones as soon as possible. Yes, I'm going to get top surgery once I can afford it. But that does not make me a guy, you know? I'm not a guy because I take testosterone. I'm not a guy because I had my chest fixed. I'm a guy. And even if I didn't do those things, I still would be. And I've always been a guy. I just have a feminine body. I mean, you know, there are other people that are born with birth defects, extra limbs, crazy stuff like that. And it doesn't change their, like, who they are. That doesn't change their gender. I don't know why having a feminine body would change my gender. So just try to be more aware of that. You know, it's a simple mistake to make, and I understand why it happens. But to a lot of people, it can be really hurtful. And I know that, speaking from my perspective, every time I encountered it, it really bothers me, and it gets me thinking, and a lot of times then I get dysphoric about it, meaning that when I hear something like that, I start thinking about my own identity and my body, and I start thinking about the way that people perceive me, and I get really uncomfortable. And usually I shut down when I get to that, and I don't talk. And when that happens, you know, if it is in a situation like a workshop like that, then I can't offer my insight to the people who are not transgender. They're talking about transgender people. I'm the only trans person in the room, and I can't even get myself up to the level to answer questions or say things to correct them. So, you know, that's what I have to say about identities and how I feel. So I hope that maybe it'll help you out to know that. And I just dropped my phone, so I'm gonna get that. And yeah, salut.